Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
Hey everyone, Sue here at 1A Auto, and today on our 03 Volvo V70, I'm going to show you how to remove and replace your power steering pump. If you need any parts for your car, click on the link below and head on over to 1AAuto.com. Take a T55, that's what I found to fit in this Serp belt tensioner. There's like a star spot right in here. I tried to use a 3/8 regular. It looks like it could be a Torx 60. I don't have that. I go right only up to 55s, but it seems like it's going to work. You just pry down and take the tension off that belt. That way we can slide the belt off. See if I can get down in here. Slide the belt off the tensioner. And maybe right off the power steering pump from the top. There you go. Okay, once the belt's off, I'm going to take the tension off of that. Get the tool right out of there. Look at that belt. That is a sign of a bad belt. And I don't mean bad, that belt is wasted. There's a lot of pieces missing. Now on European cars, a lot of them will have a double ridged side. It's just for flexibility. And this is the side that was actually riding on the pulley. This belt's no good. So I'm going to disconnect the reservoir hose. This is the return hose. This is the feed hose. This is where the pressure comes out of the power steering pump and goes down into the power steering rack. So this is a pressure hose and return hose. And I'm just going to disconnect it. Some fluid's going to come out. So I have a catch tray underneath. I have a little bucket and an absorbent pad. I'm just using a flathead screwdriver. You can probably use, this is being an import European car, it'd probably be a 7mm socket. I'm just going to pull up on this bracket and let the hose come out. So once I disconnect it, I can tip it up forward, hopefully, to not get any more fluid out. There we go. So I just put a rag there to eliminate as much of the power steering fluid going inside the alternator as possible. So the flare nut on the steel tube is a 16mm. I'm gonna see if it has any give to it. Yeah, nice. So I didn't even have to lube that up. Nice, coming right off. I'm not gonna take that whole thing off yet. Now I know I don't need to force it. Now I'm going to take my 12mm socket and I'm going to break free the mounting bolts. So from what I can see, there's possibly 3 of them. And the pulley has nice round opening holes, so you can line them up and break them free. It's unfortunate but that's the PCM in this hard box right here. That's what's underneath his cover, and I don't want to mess around with that. There we go. I'm sure there's one more. Yep, there's done. So there's 3 mounting bolts total. Once they're loosened up, I can take my socket by itself without the ratchet in the way, fit it through, pull those bolts out. Okay, so I got that bottom one free. There's one. Go up to the top here. One left. I'm just shaking it because it's getting a little stuck. It's probably got dirt on the threads. Not uncommon. There's the last bolt. So now I'm going to take my 16mm wrench and take the flare on the tube line off. Okay, and there is our power steering pump. You can see now with it out, see all the oil residue around the actual shaft on the pulley. That means that main seal was seeping, and that's why we have all the oil residue up here. And it's spinning with the belt, it's spinning out like a pinwheel, all the fluid's coming out. Now I'm just going to drain the old pump because I have to pull the pulley off to reuse it. I just don't want to make a mess. I'll let that drain for a few minutes. So now we got to remove the power steering pulley off the pump. And by doing that, you need a puller. So I'm going to take the plastic, it's just a plastic cover, which is nice because it keeps the threads clean in there, and you need those threads to actually press the pulley back on the new pump, or the old pump if you reuse it. So I'm going to take a 8mm by 125 bolt, and I'm going to thread it in. And I'm going to use the puller to take the pump, separate the pump from the pulley. So now I just got to bring down. So what we're doing is that bolt is threaded inside the shaft of the pump, and now the pulley, the screw is going to go down, and the pulley is acting like a finger. I'm going to pull the pulley off of the pump. You just have to be patient and work it right to the end. It takes a little bit of work. It's like wrestling an alligator. There we go. All depends on where you buy your pump, power steering pump. There's usually a core, so make sure you don't damage the core. And that includes even the threads inside, the outside of the shaft, and the threaded line. Now we need to take this bracket off because we need to use that on the new pump. It's a 12mm. Same size as all the other mounting bolts. So for reference, I'm going to put it right back on so I don't forget which one it goes on. There we go. Now we're going to get ready to install the old pulley on the new pump. So I use an actual installer. This is where some people you can use a long bolt with a flat washer and a nut on the bolt. So if you were to install this, you'd put this like that. And if you had a long enough bolt, you'd put a nut here and a flat washer, and you'd thread it down. Of course, the flat washer would be against the top of the pulley here, and then you'd use that nut, hold the top of the bolt steady, and work the nut back, and it just basically sucks it down in. But I have this tool, so it's going to be the same design technically. This is where I might put it in the vise. Now you got to be careful because this is compressed plastic. It's not a metal pulley, so you can't just put this part of a vise. You literally are going to have to put this piece of the pump in a vise and then hold this possibly with like a pry bar or a long screwdriver against the pump, and then you can let it pull itself in. So you can see my setup here. I put the pump, carefully I put it in a vise, and I just snug this down, and now I've got a pry bar. I'm going to put it through one of the slots for the mounting on the pulley, and I'm going to just use my leverage. I would say we're pretty much close to the end. You can feel it backing off. So now I'm going to loosen this up, see where it sits. The pulley sits on the shaft. So you can see the gap between the pulley and the pump. There's only a little bit of shaft left showing. This does have like it bottoms out. The pulley was done. And you can try to line up the groove mark. You can see the existing groove mark on the old shaft if you're questioning it. Then third thing you can do is I just came over and I mounted it the way it would mount on the bracket. And you can eye the belt pulley and it lines right up with all the other pulleys. And this is a good place where you can turn it, make sure that everything's flush. You don't have a wobble, a bent pulley. It is plastic, so plastic could crack on the inside and you wouldn't know it. So that's a good way of making sure everything looks good. Well, now we're ready to install the pump. So now it's time to remount the power steering pump. So I'm lining up the 3 bolt holes, 1, 2, and 3. You can see them now. They're out in the open. And that's why they have these, the pulley has these nice eyelets in them. So you can start that with your finger or put the socket on there. Putting the second bolt in. Just gonna put the last mounting bolt in. And last bolt. Perfect. So now we're going to replace the O-ring on the pressure hose. The new pump does come with one. Came in a baggie, so look for it. Sometimes they're hidden in the box. There's the old one, there's the new one. And you might not be able to see that with the camera, but they become cone-shaped through the years and the pressure. So if you reuse that, you take a real good chance of it leaking. So I'll just slide the new O-ring on. Take the cover off. So funny, some of these things, sometimes you can't keep them in there. Some of them you can't get out. There you go. Always try to thread it by hand first. So that way you can wiggle the line so it centers itself. Now we can tighten that up. That was a 16mm wrench. Okay, so when it comes to snugging anything with an O-ring on it, like a steel line like this, you want to just bottom it out and give it a quick quarter turn. You do not want to keep ranking on that. That ruins the actual pipe threading in there and will crush that O-ring. Now I'm going to install the new Serpentine belt. Okay. All right, so this belt was really, it's out in the open, it looks nice and clear, but I mean, a lot of it could have to do with just my stature, shortness and, you know, the amount of strength I have, but I had to shorten the ratchet. The longer ratchet was hitting the upper radiator support, so I went to a shorter ratchet, which of course means you need to be stronger to push the throw. So when I got it to the max, the tension was bottomed out. I just had to reach in there with all my might and squeeze that belt right over the tensioner pulley, and I did it. So first thing I'm going to do is drain the old power steering fluid out of the reservoir. And I got a bucket here, and the reservoir just clips right on the coolant tank. So I'm going to lift that up. If you don't have like a suction pump at home, this is the way I would empty it. You just want to get as much of the dirty fluid out as possible. Now I'm going to take the cap off and try it that way. Got as much out of the hose as I could. Bring that up there. Just pick up the mess that you make. So now I can reposition the reservoir in that clamp and then run my hose back to my pump. Tighten up the clamp. Next step on the power steering flush, what we're going to do, now the reservoir is empty, I'm going to disconnect the return hose from the rack. And this has a factory line clamp on it, so I'm going to need to get a regular clamp to replace this because you have to cut this off. There we go. Just using I lightly force that because that's a plastic reservoir. The hose has just probably always been on there, never been off. Let's see if we can pull this. Everything's coming off here. Get my hand going a little bit easier. Okay, here we go. Remount that reservoir because you want this to be nice and sturdy. I'm gonna get a bucket, and with the help of somebody, you're gonna need someone to run the car for you because you have to fill this up with the manufacturer's recommended power steering fluid. Fill that reservoir. Obviously don't fill it up to the plastic nipple that you see where the hose is disconnected now. And the idea here is we're gonna run the car just at idle, and I'm gonna keep filling this reservoir while the dirty fluid comes out of this hose into the bucket until I see clean fluid. Then I'll tell my partner to turn the car off, then I'll reconnect my hose and top the reservoir off. So now that my partner's getting in the car, before he gets in the car, the key here is to never let this reservoir run out of fluid. So you don't want to hear that pump whine. You just can't let it run dry. So you can communicate with your partner and say, ready when you're ready? Ready. Start. Shut it off. Perfect. Look how beautiful that was. So by emptying the reservoir first, we eliminated pushing dirty fluid through the new pump, and we got it. The green, beautiful new green hydraulic fluid came right out. So now we can reconnect that hose with a new clamp, then top our reservoir off and run it and make sure there's no air pockets. So now I've got a new clamp, and I'm gonna put the hose on the reservoir, make sure it bottoms out, of course. Take a flat screwdriver and just tighten this down. Let's top off that reservoir. Get a light, we can shine it right in there and see where we need to go with the fluid. Perfect, we're right at the full mark for cold, which it is, see? Full cold. So the last step to make sure you get no limited air in the system is you put your ignition switch in the on or unlock the steering wheel, and we're gonna turn it from full side to the left and full side to the right about 20 times, 10 times to the left, 10 times to the right, without the car running. I don't want that pump activating. So after I turn the steering wheel 10 times each way, I come out and check my fluid, and it's still right up there. So the good news is I probably don't have much air in the system, and hopefully I just forced any air pockets out. So I'm going to start it up and make sure the pump doesn't have a whine to it, and make sure it doesn't drop in the fluid level. Pretty good. And now that I've checked the fluid after starting it and burping the system, I can see that I need to add some, so I'm going to add some, start it up, run it, recheck it. I'm just going to repeat the process till the air bubbles are gone, and that I'm on the full marks for a cold engine or full on hot if it stays running. Then you should be ready to go.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.